I want to share with you a story, one that changed my life, one that taught me lessons I never expected to learn. It's a true story, something that happened to me not long ago, and it shook me to my core. It's about family, about love, about pain, and about the things we often don't say out loud, but feel deeply inside. It's about the moment I returned from a trip and saw my wife crying, while my son laughed with his in-laws. That moment was a turning point, a moment of clarity, and a moment of reckoning. I had been away for a few days on a business trip. It was one of those trips where you're busy, focused on work, meetings, deadlines, and you don't really think about home as much as you should. You tell yourself it's just a few days, that everything will be fine, that your family will be waiting for you with open arms. But when I walked through the door that day, I was met with something I wasn't prepared for. My wife was sitting on the couch, tears streaming down her face. She wasn't just sad, she was broken. And my son, my little boy, was laughing and playing with his grandparents, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside our home. At first, I didn't understand. I thought maybe she was just overwhelmed. Maybe the house was a mess. Maybe she was tired. But as I looked closer, I realized this was something deeper, something I had missed, something I had ignored. And in that moment, I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. How had I not seen this? How had I not been there when she needed me the most? I sat down beside her and she looked at me with eyes full of pain and exhaustion. She told me about the days I was gone, about the loneliness she felt, about the struggles she faced trying to hold everything together. She told me about the moments when she wanted to call me, to reach out, but didn't because she didn't want to bother me or add to my stress. She told me about the nights she cried herself to sleep, feeling invisible and unheard. And then she said something that hit me harder than anything else. I felt like I was losing you. Those words cut through me like a knife. They losing me not physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I was there in body, but not in mind. I was present, but absent. And that absence had created a chasm between us, a gap filled with silence and pain. I remember sitting there stunned, trying to process what she was saying. I had always thought that being physically present was enough. I had believed that as long as I was home, as long as I was around, everything would be fine. But I was wrong. Being physically present is only part of the equation. The other part, the emotional presence, the mental engagement, the spiritual connection, is what truly matters. And I had failed at that. She told me about the small things I missed, the way she looked at me when she needed support, the subtle signs of stress she tried to hide, the quiet moments when she longed for a conversation but didn't want to interrupt. She told me about the weight she carried alone, the decisions she made without me, the fears she kept to herself. And as she spoke, I realized how distant I had become, how much I had taken for granted. My son, meanwhile, was oblivious to the tension in the room. His laughter echoed through the house, a stark contrast to the heaviness I felt inside. He was playing with his grandparents, carefree and joyful, unaware of the cracks forming in the foundation of our family. That innocence made the situation even more painful. Here was this little boy full of life and happiness, and yet the people who were supposed to protect and nurture him were struggling to hold it all together. That night, I lay awake thinking about everything. I thought about the promises I had made to my family, the dreams we shared, the future we envisioned. I thought about the moments I had missed, the conversations I had avoided, the emotions I had suppressed. I felt a deep sense of regret, but also a fierce determination to change. I realized that love is not enough on its own. Love is the foundation, yes, but it needs to be built upon with attention, effort, and presence. You can love someone deeply, but if you're not there for them in the ways they need, that love can feel empty, can feel like a promise unfulfilled. And that's what I had done. I had loved my wife and son, but I had not been fully there for them. The next day, I made a decision. I would not let this moment define us in a negative way. I would use it as a catalyst for growth, for healing, for reconnection. I sat down with my wife and my son and told them how sorry I was. I told them I had been wrong, that I had been absent in ways that hurt them, and that I was committed to being better. I promised to listen more, to be more present, to share the load, to be the partner and father they deserved. It wasn't easy. Change never is. There were moments of frustration, moments when old habits crept back in, moments when I felt overwhelmed by the weight of responsibility. But I kept going. I kept showing up. I kept choosing my family over distractions, over work, over everything else. I started small. I made time for daily conversations with my wife, not just about logistics or schedules, but about feelings, hopes, fears, and dreams. I asked her how she was really doing, and I listened without judgment or interruption. I made sure to be home for dinner, to put away my phone, to engage fully in the moment. I played with my son, read to him, laughed with him, and let him know he was loved and safe. Slowly, the tears began to dry. The laughter grew louder. The distance between us started to close. We rebuilt our connection, brick by brick, moment by moment. And in doing so, I learned something profound. Family is not just about blood or proximity. It's about presence. It's about showing up fully and authentically. Every day, this experience taught me to never take my loved ones for granted, to never assume that just because I'm there, I'm enough, to never forget that the people I love need me not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. They need my attention, my care, my vulnerability. I want to share this story with you because I know many of you have been where I was. You've been so busy chasing your dreams, building your career, or dealing with life's challenges that you've lost sight of what truly matters. You've been physically present, but emotionally distant. You've been caught up in your own struggles and forgotten to check in on the people who love you most. If that's you, I want you to know it's not too late. You can turn things around. You can rebuild those bridges. You can heal those wounds. But it starts with awareness. It starts with honesty. It starts with a willingness to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Take a moment to think about your own family. Think about your partner, your children, your parents. Think about the last time you really connected with them, not just a quick hello or a rushed conversation, but a deep, meaningful moment. When was the last time you truly listened? When was the last time you showed up fully? If you can't remember, that's okay. It's a sign that it's time to make a change. It's a sign that you need to prioritize your relationships. Because at the end of the day, your family is your foundation. They are your home. They are your heart. I'm not saying it will be easy. Relationships are complex. People are imperfect. Life throws curveballs, but the effort is worth it. The love is worth it. The connection is worth it. And here's the thing. When you invest in your family, you're not just helping them, you're helping yourself. You're creating a support system that will carry you through life's toughest moments, building a legacy of love and resilience that will last for generations. So, what can you do right now? Start small. Pick up the phone and call your partner or your child. Ask them how they're really doing. Listen without interrupting. Make time for a meal together without distractions. Put away your phone and be present. Show them that they matter. Show them that you care. If there are wounds that need healing, don't be afraid to address them. Apologize if you need to. Forgive if you can. Seek help if necessary. Healing is a process, but it begins with a single step. Remember, love is not just a feeling. It's a choice. It's a daily commitment to show up, to listen, to support, and to grow together. It's about being there in the good times and the bad. It's about holding each other up when the world feels heavy. My story is not unique. Many families face similar struggles, but it's a story of hope, a story of redemption, a story of the power of love and commitment. I hope it inspires. You too, look at your own life and ask yourself, am I truly present for the people I love? Am I doing everything I can to nurture those relationships? Am I willing to face the hard truths and make the changes necessary? If the answer is yes, then you're on the right path. If the answer is no, then today's the day to start. Because life is short, time is precious, and the people you love deserve your best. Don't wait for a crisis to wake you up. Don't wait for tears to fall before you act. Choose love now. Choose connection now. Choose to be the partner, the parent, the child, the friend that your family needs. When you do, you'll find that the tears will turn to smiles, the distance will turn to closeness, and the pain will turn to joy. And you'll realize that the greatest success in life is not measured by money or status, but by the love you give and receive. So take this story as a call to action. Take it as a reminder that family is everything. Take it as a challenge to be better, to love harder, and to never take those you love for granted. Because when you do, you don't just change your family, you change yourself. You become stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled. Create a life filled with meaning and purpose. And that, my friends, is the true measure of success. Meanwhile, my son was laughing and playing with his grandparents, completely oblivious to the tension that hung heavy in the room. His laughter was pure, unfiltered joy, the kind of innocent happiness that only a child can possess. He was carefree, full of life, and utterly unaware of the storm brewing just a few feet away. That innocence, that lightness, made the situation even more heartbreaking. Here was this little boy, so full of hope and wonder, and yet the foundation of his family, the very people who were supposed to protect and nurture him, was quietly cracking beneath him. The walls that should have been strong and unshakable were showing signs of strain, and I was the one who had allowed it to happen. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I lay awake in the darkness, my mind racing with thoughts and emotions I hadn't fully confronted before. I thought about my wife's tears, the raw vulnerability in her eyes, and the weight of loneliness she had carried while I was away. I thought about my son's laughter, so joyful and innocent, and how it contrasted so sharply with the silence and sadness that had filled our home. I thought about the distance that had grown between us. It's not just physical distance, but emotional and mental distance. I realized with a sinking feeling that I had been so caught up in my own world, my work, my ambitions, my distractions, that I had neglected the most important people in my life. I had taken for granted the love and support of my family, assuming it would always be there, no matter what. But love is not a guarantee. It's not something you can take for granted or assume will always be present. Love requires attention, effort, and presence. It requires showing up not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. It requires listening, understanding, and being willing to face uncomfortable truths even when it's hard. Love is a living thing that needs to be nurtured every day, or it withers and fades. The next morning, I sat down with my wife and my son. I looked into my wife's eyes and apologized not just for being away on the trip, but for not being truly present even when I was home. I apologized for the times I had been distracted, for the moments I had missed, for the silence I had allowed to grow between us. I promised to do better, to be more attentive, to be more involved. Promised to listen more and to speak less. I promised to make our family my priority, no matter how busy life got. And I meant every word. Over the following weeks and months, I began to make changes. At first, they were small, more phone calls during trips, more quality time at home, more open conversations. I learned to ask my wife how she was really feeling, not just how her day went. I learned to notice the little things, the tired eyes, the forced smiles, the quiet sighs that spoke volumes. I learned to be patient and compassionate, to hold space for her emotions without rushing to fix everything immediately. Realized that sometimes the most important thing I could do was simply be there, to listen and to understand. With my son, I made sure to be present in his world. I played with him, read to him, listened to his stories, and laughed with him. I realized that those moments of connection were the building blocks of his sense of security and love. I wanted him to grow up knowing that no matter what, his family was a safe place, a place of joy, support, and unconditional love. I wanted him to feel that he mattered, that he was seen and heard, and that he could always count on us. The journey wasn't easy. There were setbacks, misunderstandings, and moments of frustration. Old habits die hard, and sometimes I found myself slipping back into distraction or impatience. There were days when my wife and I would argue, when the weight of unspoken feelings threatened to pull us apart again. There were moments when I felt overwhelmed by the responsibility of rebuilding what had been broken. But through it all, we kept talking, kept trying, kept loving. We refused to give up on each other or on our family. Slowly but surely, the tears began to dry. The laughter grew louder. The distance between us started to close. We found new ways to connect, new rituals, to share new memories, to create. We learned to communicate more openly and honestly, to express our needs and fears without judgment. We discovered the power of forgiveness, not just forgiving each other, but forgiving ourselves for the mistakes we had made. I realized that healing a family is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about showing up every day with a willingness to grow, to learn, and to love more deeply. It's about embracing vulnerability and courage, about choosing connection over isolation. It's about building a foundation strong enough to weather life's storms. As I reflect on that time, I am filled with gratitude. Grateful for the chance to make things right. Grateful for the resilience of my wife and son. Grateful for the lessons learned through pain and struggle. I am reminded that family is the most precious gift we have, and it deserves our best effort, our full attention, our unwavering commitment. If there is one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this. Never take your family for granted. Never assume that love will survive without care. Never wait for a crisis to wake you up. Be present. Be attentive. Be loving. Show up fully every day in the small moments and the big ones, because those moments add up. They build trust, security, and joy. They create a home where everyone feels valued and safe. And if you find yourself in a place where distance and pain have crept in, know that it's never too late to start again. Healing is possible. Connection can be restored. Love can be rekindled. But it requires courage to face the truth, to apologize, to forgive, and to commit to change. My story is not unique. Many families face similar struggles. But it is a story of hope, a story of redemption, a story of the power of love and commitment to overcome even the darkest moments. So, I encourage you to look at your own life and ask yourself, am I truly present for the people I love? Am I doing everything I can to nurture those relationships? Am I willing to face the hard truths and make the changes necessary? If the answer is yes, then you're on the right path. If the answer is no, then today is the day to start. Because life is short, time is precious, and the people you love deserve your best.